If you want to visit the birthplace of karate someday, then you have to watch today's video, because there are so many things you need to know if you want to visit Okinawa to practice karate. You see, I've been there over 24 times, and I actually used to live there back in 2009. But a lot has changed since then, and that's why I've invited my good friend Sensei James Pankiewicz live and direct from Okinawa today. He's the #1 connection between foreigners and the Okinawan karate community, and he's gonna explain exactly what you need to know to find a dojo in Okinawa, how to approach training, the most important phrases you need to know, and some common mistakes you have to avoid. So keep watching if you ever want to visit the birthplace of karate. Do you think it's important for people to wear a white belt as a visitor to Okinawa, or should they keep the regular belt? Because I usually like to wear a white belt, but that's just personal preference.
You can never go wrong by wearing a white belt. Have a white belt with you, get one, buy one when you get here in Okinawa, and be ready to wear your white belt sort of by default. However, many teachers, particularly after they've seen you do a little bit of karate and they realize that, oh, maybe you're not actually a white belt, you've been doing this for a little while, they might say to you, hey, wear your black belt, wear your other belt, it's fine. So it varies from teacher to teacher, but I would say as a starting point, be ready to wear a white belt.
And what about language skills? Do you need to speak Japanese, or is English fine?
Quite a few teachers speak English quite well, and there are many dojos that have students that are multilingual and will be able to assist visitors. However, you are going to get a better understanding, a more in-depth understanding of not just the words that the sensei is saying to you, but also the concepts that are kind of being explained in the dojo, if you've done a little bit of work to learn some of the language and some of the terms first. So that will definitely benefit you.
So just to help us out, could you give us 5 important Japanese phrases for the dojo? Could be words, terminology, just 5 to start with.
Well, onegai shimasu. Onegai shimasu is kind of multi-purpose. So when you enter a dojo, many people might think about saying konnichiwa, which is not wrong at all. That means hello. But onegai shimasu is often what you say when you enter a dojo, where you're kind of saying, please treat me well, please look after me, please teach me. And that always kind of conveyed in using that one word when you enter. Also, when you come onto the mat, you can say onegai shimasu. When you're just about to bow and start your training, you'll often hear they will say onegai shimasu. So it's a very useful term. Hai. Hai means yes in Japanese, but in Okinawa, hai is often used to mean not just yes, I accept something or I agree, but it means I heard you. So in the same way that many dojos, let's say more mainland dojos, might use os. Os is not really a term that's very kindly looked on in Okinawa. So whenever you think about saying os, change that and say hai.
Because os is considered a little bit rude, actually, right?
Yeah, it's kind of has this kind of very hard, kind of militaristic kind of connotations to it. And that doesn't go down too well in Okinawa, in many dojos. I'm going to give you a phrase here in Okinawan. It's icharaba chode. And this is an Okinawan phrase. It's not Japanese. Icharaba chode. And it literally means once we meet, we are family. If you say icharaba chode, you'll instantly become friends. So that's a good one to have up your sleeve. Yeah? Sumimasen is kind of just means excuse me. But again, if you kind of mess up a little bit or you want to repeat something, then you can say sumimasen, and you can add to that moichido, which means one more time. So if the sensei says something to you and you don't quite understand, and you want them to maybe explain it or repeat it a bit more, you can say sumimasen, moichido. You shouldn't be embarrassed to kind of admit that maybe you didn't understand something. That way you'll get a better explanation rather than maybe continuing in error where you didn't really understand something. I guess the last phrase, domo arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you very much. One of the things that you'll find when you come to Okinawa is that many people will go out of their way to help you. They're very kind and hospitable people. So be ready to say domo arigatou gozaimashita.
And how about tuition fees? Because it's not free to practice karate in Okinawa, right? And I usually bring gifts, but you should also pay for training.
There is no standard fee in Okinawa. It varies from teacher to teacher. There are some teachers who don't require a fee, but you should always be ready to pay a fee. I would say, as an average, probably about 3,000 yen per class. So when you arrive in Okinawa, if you haven't already, go and buy a pack of envelopes, just stick them in your bag, and every time that you come to hand over money, put it in an envelope. It's a polite thing to do in Japanese society. Of course, if you're going into a retail store and paying with cash, then you don't have to worry about the envelope. But gifts also are a really nice thing to do. And even if it's just small things, inexpensive things, but you've brought them all the way from your home country, then they'll be very much appreciated. Could be, chocolates, candies, little things.
What would you say are the top 3 mistakes that you see foreigners making when they come to practice karate in Okinawa?
The first one is kind of relates to the empty cup that we talked about before. So if you kind of have the opposite, if you kind of go into a dojo with the intention to kind of show off everything that you know, that can be a mistake, trying to show off too much too soon. Now, once you've established a little bit of a relationship with the teacher, then you'll understand probably that if they want you to show a bit more of what you can do, then there's an appropriate time to do that. But from the start, be humble and be modest. I guess the other things we touched on is using os too much. Again, many Okinawan teachers are kind of used to the fact that visitors may not understand that os is not generally used in dojo, so try to avoid using os and use hai instead. Last one, always be prompt, be on time, and be prepared. When you're going to the dojo, try and get there early. 15 minutes early is usually a good measure. Having said that, what you will see is that many Okinawan dojos are very relaxed about timekeeping. So you'll see that sometimes, older students will drift in at various different times. So in some ways, Okinawan dojos seem a lot more relaxed than, let's say, mainland Japanese dojos or overseas dojos that have learned the Japanese way. But don't be lulled into a false sense of kind of being over-relaxed. You should be on time.
Love that. What would be your top must-see places for karate tourists?
Well, I would say now the Karate Kaikan has become a very important place to visit. It's relatively new. It's only been there for a few years now. But by going to the Karate Kaikan, you get a head start on a couple of things. One is that you can go and talk to the team there. That can give you lots of really good advice and pointers on how to optimize your time in Okinawa. Also, at the Karate Kaikan, there is a museum there. And so you can go and get a really good view, kind of a tour around some of the history of Okinawan karate. And if you're lucky enough, there might be some training or there might be some events going on there too that you can see. The Funakoshi Monument, which is located in Onayama Koen. So there's a very nicely laid out monument to Funakoshi Gijin Sensei, the founder of Shotokan Karate. And while there are many, many monuments that you can go and see around Okinawa, that one's probably the easiest one to find and to access. And for Shotokan practitioners in particular, it's going to be particularly special. So I would recommend that one.
And I would recommend Asato Dojo. Could you explain that one?
I didn't want to be too presumptuous, but yeah, the Asato Dojo is open to everybody. We're very, very welcoming to anybody that comes to visit. You're very welcome to come and train with us. You're very welcome to come and observe classes. And I'm here to help people as well. So the Asato Dojo is like a little Kaikan in itself. We want to always be open and welcome everybody to come and train. And we're located very centrally. If you knew where the dojo bar was, then you can find Asato Dojo. Let me welcome a special guest here.
Hey, I recognize that face.
I'm
a ninja! I'm a ninja! Isashiburi.
Hey, Mito Kulu.
Hey,
What would be the best way to approach a dojo? Let's say I'm going to Okinawa, I'm ready to train, I got my white belt. How do I contact the sensei? Hey!
Offer him one of the best gis in the world. That's how you get there.
Oh!
So, Jesse, would you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. What's the best way to approach a sensei when you come to Okinawa, if you just want to go and train at a dojo?
That's an interesting one. So many people traditionally would tell you that you must have a letter of introduction. And that certainly helps. And for many senseis, that will be a very important thing for you to do. However, if you don't have the ability to do that, if you're new to Okinawa, but you know you found a dojo or you found an introduction or you found someone who can take you to a dojo, then I would say go along and, be friendly, be, of course, humble, and just talk to the sensei and tell them that you've come to Okinawa. You love to try some traditional karate training. I would say 9 out of 10 times the teachers will be very welcoming, and you will have an opportunity at least to watch their class, if not to join in.
Do you have any advice for Kobudo? Because this is something that a lot of people come to Okinawa for, because in the West there's not a lot of high-level Kobudo, right? So
Well, there's some very good Kobudo dojos in Okinawa. Perhaps a little harder to find than karate dojos, because like you say, there aren't so many of them. If you already have a good foundation in karate, then that will serve you well when it comes to then moving on to weapons practice. Generally in Okinawa, you're going to start with bow practice, so the sort of 6-foot staff, and then move on to another weapon. So you don't necessarily even need to have your own weapons when you go to the school. Generally, they'll have weapons that you can borrow and use as a visitor or a beginner.
what would you say are the biggest misconceptions about training karate and Kobudo in Okinawa?
Well, sometimes people think that they're a lot more separate than they actually are. In fact, I would say most karate dojos also have some Kobudo practice. Some have less, some have more. So actually, many people in Okinawa look at karate and Kobudo practice as sort of the left hand and the right hand of the same thing, and they very much kind of are part of each other.
What would be the best area of Okinawa to go to?
Well, that's an interesting one. So most of the action when it comes towards a martial arts training happens in Naha, the capital city located in the south of the island, right next to the airport. For training primarily, very likely you're going to find yourself based in Naha, the capital city.
And do you have any last pieces of advice for somebody who's never been to Okinawa and is now ready to go?
Yeah, I would say, look, don't wait. You'll never really be ready to come to Okinawa, so don't delay. Just come to Okinawa and get stuck in. As soon as you can come to Okinawa, you should. Come and start learning. Everybody has to start somewhere. The sooner you come, the sooner you're going to love it, and the sooner your Okinawa experience is going to begin.
Let's finish with talking about Bujin TV, your latest project. Could you just explain that briefly for people?
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, I'd love to. So Bujin TV is an online streaming video service for martial arts content. A bit like Netflix. Let's talk about it as the Netflix for martial arts. What we do is we hand select high quality content, and we update that every week. We already have a great selection from Okinawa, but then also from other teachers and content creators around the world, including yourself, Jesse. Thank you so much. We've got a wonderful selection of content from yourself, including both of your series going through Okinawa and your series going through and discovering the roots of karate in China. Those are hugely popular series. So that's kind of that gives you the idea about the quality of content that we have in Bujin TV.
Well, thank you so much, Sensei James, for sharing your time, experience, and expertise with us today.
You're very welcome, Jesse. It's always a great pleasure to speak to you.
はい、ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。